we're still here. Hi.
Hello, I'm Andrew Bennett. Music is great, right? We love listening to music. Music is just the best thing in the world. But what if I were to tell you that maybe music isn't as great as we think it is? There are actually many negative things that go along with listening to music. Many negative side effects and effects that come with music. Music in and of itself isn't bad, but bad things can happen because of listening to music or listening to too much music. So teenagers in the 21st century have always preferred their music loud. They always like listening to music. And as portable devices become more and more readily available, this is becoming more and more of a problem. Turning up the music, blasting the music, and shutting the world out. This is becoming a major problem with teenagers. And the further we go along, the worse it's going to get. So in a survey, 170 kids were surveyed in this study, and fully 1/4 of the kids that were studied were experiencing symptoms of early onset tendinitis, which is a chronic, unceasing ringing in the ears. This ordinarily does not appear in adults until the age of 50, and nowadays it is appearing in teenagers. And you could say almost 1/4 of teenagers are experiencing this. This is largely in part to listening to music too loudly and too frequently. That is one major issue with music in today's society. Another thing is music can in and of itself trigger seizures. Musogenic seizures is a reflex epilepsy triggered by certain types of music or specific frequencies of music that trigger things in your brain, and parts of your brain that has a low threshold of tolerance and can cause you to have a seizure. Oftentimes, if you have a seizure from this, you don't know the music that caused it. It is often blamed on other things, when in fact the music was the cause of the seizure. And again, those are called musogenic seizures, and they're more common. They happen more common than you think. Another thing, perpetually listening to sad music is actually scientifically proven to make you have greater anxiety and more depression. So some Finnish researchers used MRI and tested people's brains, two groups of people, some listening to sad music, music with sad melodies, sad lyrics, and then people listening to normal upbeat music. And the group that listened to the sadder, more depressing music, after the test came out feeling more depressed, and the frequencies in their brain showed that they were having sad, negative thoughts. So listening to sad music for great periods of time can actually cause depression in people. Also, your memory is affected when listening to music. So researchers from the University of Wales had a study, an experiment on students, and they had 3 groups of students. One group was listening to music that they preferred. Another group of students listened to music that they had never heard before. And the third group of students didn't listen to anything. They were in complete silence. And all 3 groups of students were asked to remember a string of numbers and a few simple sentences. And then after they were asked to remember these things, they were removed from the rooms, and then they were asked to repeat what they were supposed to remember. And the students who were in complete silence when asked to remembered better than the students listening to music. And there have been other tests as well proving that you will remember things better when you're trying to remember them in silence as opposed to listening to them when you're listening to music. And that doesn't matter if it's music you know or music you don't. You're still going to remember better when you're in a silent environment. You'll be able to focus better. Another thing is listening to music while driving. So you wouldn't think this is going to cause any problems, but researchers in Canada have actually proven that listening to music at 95 decibels or higher, and the average car stereo's max is 120 decibels. So listening to music at 95 decibels is pretty typical. So when you're listening to music at 95 decibels, it can slow down your reaction time up to 20%. which is a pretty significant percentage. So if a car were to drive out in front of you, someone were to jump out in front of you, and you were listening to music louder than 95 decibels, you would have a 20% slower reaction time, and that could be the difference between life and death. So even listening to your music loud can affect your reaction time and your thought process, and could be the difference between your life and death. Many lyrics in today's songs promote bad morals. So a 2006 study of almost 1,500 teens found that teens who heavily listen to music featuring sexual subject matter are more likely to start having sex earlier than those who do not, by a margin of almost 2 to 1. And this can be said about drugs and crime and other things, just bad morals in general. Children, teenagers, even adults who listen to music with these kind of morals in them, and they listen to them on a regular basis, are more likely to start thinking that way, acting that way, and this is a way that music can negatively impact you. So it could be said that you are what you listen to. Also, listening to music often can just promote antisocial behavior. I think in today's society, you're more likely to put in your earbuds and shut out the people around you than talk and have a conversation. So I would encourage you, next time you're on a bus, put your earbuds down, turn off your iPod, turn off your phone, and turn to the person next to you and strike up a conversation instead of plugging yourself up and listening to music.